Hello everybody and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Suj.
And my name is James.
James in the world. What's going on?
Shit week.
To be honest with you, I have no idea. We've hit record on this, and I'm sure lots of people think, oh, we work so hard on the pod and whatever. We ain't chat shit about Sky this week at all with FPL and what have you. So I actually have no idea what a good score in Sky this week just gone is, would be, or anything. All right. I kind of pre-week set my team up and that was it. I scored 60.
Tell us what you got. 60.
Yeah,
it's good.
Oh, okay, fine. We had the news on Ronaldo. I'd bust on Ronaldo captaincy on the Saturday. You said you're probably just going to Lukaku. I genuinely didn't have the time to figure out what and why. So I worked off the assumption, well, James probably got a plan. So I'll just copy it. So I moved to Lukaku and captained him as well. I figured out, you must have figured out that there's more advantage of captaining Lukaku in the next 3 or 4 weeks. And I'd left, funnily, I looked at my team on Monday and I was like, I only got 15 points from Salah. Did I forget to captain him? And then I had to check myself and be like, I captained Antonio, I know it.
Of course you captained Antonio.
Everyone did. And it's so obvious to think, oh, well, yeah, I filled my boots with Salah, but I didn't. But I ended up with Sanchez's clean sheet, Ben White's clean sheet. Rudiger got a passing tier, didn't he? No, passing tier. Markel ended up with a tackle tier for me, which is better than nothing.
He's had a few of them.
It's better than nothing. Like, he's lingered there for a while. Ruben Diaz got nothing. How often is Ruben Diaz going to get a donut?
Not often.
Like, never.
No, don't panic about it.
Nah. JWP was Hero and Zero as well.
Hero and Zero. Someone put on our Slack, I can't remember who it was, but literally put on our Slack channel on Patreon, that's why we own JWP. And literally 10 minutes later was like, oh.
Still 5 points, better than nothing. Rafinha, 5 points. Salah 15, and then Antonio and Lukaku, my 2 captains, were my blanks. I had 4 blanks: Diaz, Saint Maximin, Antonio, and Lukaku. Everybody else picked me up a little something. So 60 points.
Essentially, every captain missed, bar a couple on Sunday. So those who went, obviously, Mo Salah on Sunday, very well done. Certainly no regret from my perspective in terms of backing players with the fixture, i.e. Antonio, for example. Obviously, Harry Kane got shot tier 2, had 4 shots on target against Villa. So that's better than a smack in the mouth in comparison to, say, the Antonios and Lukaku and Ronaldo the day before. So
my game week rank was 31,000.
I can't tell you what mine is because I can't get reception at the moment. So I
rank.
don't even know what I scored, but it was 50-something.
Okay.
It was my worst game week rank of the season was about 38k.
Okay.
But I went up about 100 places to about 1,400. So no sweat. It was, if you had a bad week, it was a bad week to have a bad week, right?
Yeah.
Those who've kind of captained Salah this week have had a bit of advantage. Otherwise, not that many popular players particularly returned in other games either. So
do you know what? It was my second worst game week rank all season. I had 1 week where I was 61,000, but other than that,
what was your game week rank with 60?
31,000.
Oh, okay. There's not as much difference as I thought there'd be over the 6 points. So there must be people out there who are obviously obviously people with captain Salah are probably in the 80s, 90s. But I did look at the highest scores of the week, and I think there were only 8 players, I think, in the whole game who got more than 100. So good week to have a bad week, if you like.
Tell me why this Ronaldo to Lukaku was the move that I was supposed to make and did make. So what have I now just won?
You're allowed to make your own decisions, and obviously in hindsight you probably go, oh shit, I'm not sure I wanted to do that. So the problem with Lukaku was obviously had these great 5 fixtures that started with the last game against Southampton. But there was no good entry point, right? The entry point was probably when Chelsea played Tottenham. But bearing in mind that was the second week after overhaul, really the strategy was unless you were prepared to buy him in, you should have started with Lukaku. Yeah. Now, many of us didn't because of Salah, Ronaldo, Antonio, mainly the main 3 for kind of thinking. And a lot of people have gone with the 3 big hitters. It's fine. So there wasn't a good entry point. But the plan in my mind was always chain move, Ronaldo to Kane, Arsenal, then on to Lukaku for the Norwich fixture, which is match week 9. But knowing that Ronaldo had a 12:30 in game week 7, which is just gone, and Salah's obviously got a 12:30 in match week 8 coming up, and knowing that if either of them were left on the bench, move, go, get it done. So it wasn't Ronaldo's on the bench, fuck, panic, what am I going to do? It was always the back of my mind strategy that if those situations played out was to go and buy Lukaku. So that's what I did. It obviously didn't make a lot of difference. What it of course meant was that it was going to fuck the chain move. So I kind of already had decided that I wasn't going to buy Harry Kane. So I couldn't then go, I wasn't obviously going to go Lukaku in and then go to an Arsenal player and then back to Lukaku, because then I would have been better off just sitting on my hands basically. So I had to look at different ideas. So instead of making one transfer this week, I've ended up making 3, partly influenced by James Ward-Prowse's red card as well.
Okay.
So I sold James Ward-Prowse and Jose Sarr on Sunday.
Oh, wow.
For Emi Martinez and a Merrick Laporte. So the thinking with that was I'd had this bit of money spare for a while, knowing that I kind of needed to leave a certain amount back to plan for Lukaku to Kane basically in kind of match week 12 is kind of what I'm thinking. It might be that it's match week 11. Now going to Laporte's written that off. Doesn't mean I won't come back to it. But I decided, looking at all the values of players, midfielders, defenders, at kind of around about James Ward-Prowse, and knowing that I could get straight up to Laporte, I felt was worth it. Now you look at it on the face of it and go, you've gone in for Liverpool away. You're right, I have, but I've gone in on a Sunday. Then it's a Saturday fixture. Then we roll. It is a decent entry point. And Laporte actually did scrape to a passing tier. He got a 3-pointer at the weekend as well. So now I'm sitting there with double City defence, the 2 centre-backs, which I don't think too many have got. And my get-out always is to sacrifice, if Laporte is going to stay in the team, which at the moment I really think he is. And that's not to say he definitely plays against Burnley, right? They could get rested, for example. But to move Diaz down or move Matip down, Adam Webster's going to be back fit soon. So to refine that little bit I'm now short of Lukaku to Kane, I'm sure something will come up where I can find it. The other thing was obviously because of going Lukaku early, the chain move to Arsenal was going to become a problem. And the Ward-Prowse suspension, he's only going to miss the 2 games rather than 3. Please be aware of that. So he should be back for Southampton's game at Watford, I believe, on Saturday the 30th. And those who didn't sell on Sunday should probably consider keeping at this point, actually. But I decided to take the advantage and make a couple of shifts. I mean, I think a Ward-Prowse to Laporte is an upgrade. And if I was going to sell Ward-Prowse, I was going to put myself in a couple of problems, right? Arsenal Villa was going to be a problem. I have Conor Gallagher. And it also meant the Southampton Villa game was going to be a problem. So, as I'd said on this podcast last week, if you wanted to go to Villa, the entry point, if you needed it for the Arsenal game as well, was the Sunday gone.
Correct.
He got saved here. That'll do. 4 points. We move on. So, I mean, the team now, if you saw to Ward-Prowse, has become Martinez and Laporte. The team is stronger. So, there's not an immediate gain on it. And you can look at that and you can think, oh my God, I've made 3 transfers over the weekend and I've only gained like 8 points or so. But I think that'll come in the coming weeks or so. So, I didn't want to use the 3 transfers over the weekend, but actually looking at the longer term plan, it's probably going to work out quite similar. I've just ended up making some moves earlier. It probably means for me now that I will probably swing with Gallagher and Martinez for the 2 Arsenal games as captains, and then I've got Martinez for Southampton Villa as well. If you're thinking Wolves Everton, I'm still sitting there with Damari Gray. Mm-hmm. So at the moment I'm covered off. The next move is I've got 3-4 weeks to work out how am I going to find that money for Lukaku to Kane when I want to make that move. It might be that by the time it comes around I go, it's Lukaku to Son.
Yeah.
And decide I don't need to find that money. So, but that's the plan next move. There's nothing else I've got on the horizon for the next couple of weeks till the next player decides he wants to go in for a fucking
exactly.
X-rated
How many transfers have you used
injury.
now? 6, 7?
No, 4.
Oh, you've only used 4?
Some of 36. It's fine.
I feel like you'd used more than me, but I've used 4 as well. I had to fix Webster as a problem. I had to fix Ferran Torres as a problem. Ronaldo as a problem. So all of my moves, and Pickford, all of my 4 moves so far have been fixing players that are not playing or what have you. So I haven't had the chance to make any aggressive moves yet. But let's see. I've still got coverage for all of the single game days as well. I mean, I've got Sanchez. If Marcel was to stick around till that Everton Wolves game, he can still cover me off that as well if I really needed to.
How much you got in the bank?
That's a very good question. 2.9 million.
I was going to say, obviously, if he's there, he's doing you a favour in a certain way, in the sense that you're not spending the money on another player.
Yeah.
But with that much in the bank, you should look at potential options.
Yeah, I mean, there's still a way away, James. Like you said, problems are going to happen, man, between now and then. They're happening every week. So
there's no problem having that amount of money in the bank, mate. Like, don't look at it and go, oh my God, I've got to spend the money. But because you've got that money spare, you should be looking at different options.
What's the next option?
Absolutely.
I think we should jump into some of these Twitter questions, because I've had a look through them, and basically they're covering off all the talking points that we need to talk about, like JWP, who you've moved on from, and I've held, and so on and so on and so on. And I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up with Tim Barry saying, "Is it time to take Brentford seriously? So many options, but which ones?"
Possibly. What price is Mbuemo?
7.2. He's the standout. At the moment, I've got a cheap midfielder in St. Maximin at 7.9 or 8 or whatever it is.
Strongly, and I feel like I do this every Wednesday, but genuinely, although it's FPL focused in the main, I really would recommend, if you're thinking about Mbuemo, listening to tomorrow's Clash of the Correspondents. Our Brentford correspondent, Tom Med, joins us to preview the Chelsea game. And we obviously talk about Mbuemo and possible threats, possible system changes, the impact of Jensen, the impact of Wissa, if it's likely to have an impact on Mbuemo. So if you're seriously thinking about buying Mbuemo at some point, you should consider listening to that, I think.
The only thing with Mbuemo is he hasn't had a single tier all season. Not a pass, not a shot, not a tackle, not a nothing.
No, but he's 7.2 million midfielder playing up front.
Yeah, but the thing is, 7.2, it's not a big jump to a St. Maximin or a Ben Rama or another midfield, Conor Gallagher's same price. I think there's a lot of competition in that space, and I don't think he's the best at that price or in and around that 7 to 8 million bracket.
I get that, but let's give you an example move where I think you can look at this. It's probably off the table for me because I've moved to Wolves player. But for those who have Wolves coverage for Wolves Everton, perhaps you're sitting there with maybe Damari Gray as well, and you're happy with your Wolves player for the single day captaincy with Everton, which now obviously every week it gets closer and closer to consider this sort of thing. Following Watford at home on Saturday the 23rd for Everton, they've Wolves away, Tottenham at home, Man City away. Then they actually play Brentford themselves, Liverpool, Arsenal. They've got Chelsea 2 after that, Leicester 3 after that. Everton's fixtures take a turn. So you could look at something like, and it might sound a bit mad, but actually before the captaincy day, sell someone like Damari Gray for Mbuemo the next day when Brentford play Leicester, because that is the entry point. Sunday the 24th. And then the fixtures are great. So it's Leicester, Burnley, Norwich, Newcastle, Everton, Tottenham, Leeds, Watford, up until a difficult Christmas period. And at 7.2, I mean, it's the facilitator, right? It's okay. It's okay to look at it. It's probably not a move for me at the moment, but I think those who are thinking about it, obviously not this weekend, in my opinion, they've obviously got Chelsea on the Saturday, but you've got some time, I think, before they play Leicester on the Sunday, and that is the best entry point, in my opinion. Other than that, you're probably looking again when, ironically, they play Everton on Sunday, November the 26th.
I think it's a little risky, to be honest with you. I just think you can find better options. But, yeah, I mean, it's one of those funny ones where you're not going to make the move, but you don't mind recommending, like, if people doing it. I don't want to make the move, and I don't feel comfortable.
That example of Gray, and just literally the flip of fixtures between Everton and Brentford, plus it's going to put you 0.6 in the bank as well, might work as long as you have the Wolves asset. I no longer have the Wolves asset, so I don't think it's on the table for me. Another alternative that you could consider, perhaps you might be unhappy with for whatever reason, Conor Gallagher plays Newcastle the day before. You could obviously move him. I think it's 7.3 Gallagher, isn't it? You could move him to Mbuemo on that Sunday. But Palace's fixtures, they have Manchester City the week after, but then after that, Palace's fixtures get a lot easier. They've actually themselves got a decent run of fixtures, so I'd be less keen on that one. But I think those who are sitting there with a Wolves and a Damari Gray, it's one possibly to consider in 10 days or so, whenever it comes around. The Brentford-Leicester game.
FPL Dempsey, after a slow start, is it feasible from here to go against the grain and spend a little more on midfield assets? KDB, Foden and Mount, are they worth a look, James?
Is like any one of them individually worth a look? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you captain KDB against Burnley and he goes off, and we know that he can, what's a massive differential? And the same will apply to a Foden and Mount. Mount at the moment I wouldn't be keen on. Again, I'm going to recommend that podcast tomorrow. He's definitely first choice Mason Mount, but it's not quite happening.
Managing his minutes a little bit.
He obviously had a very busy summer.
He did.
It goes for a lot of English players, of course, but Mason Mount particularly. The problem is, it's the moving the money from the other two parts of the team where you want it most, which is in attack and defence. If we use De Bruyne particularly as the reference point, with some of them games coming up, Burnley at home, Brighton away, Palace at home, and then beyond, can Kevin De Bruyne do really well? Yes. But I just think you're moving the money from the wrong place of the team at the moment. But it's that sort of move that is going to differentiate you, and if it works out, is going to make the difference and propel you up the league. There's no doubt about that. It's just not for me at the moment because I'd be moving the money. I think, I don't know, if something like Lukaku got injured in the international break, it might be something I'd come back and look at. I think I'd be looking at it short term.
Yeah. I think we can wipe out quite a few of the Twitter questions by talking about this particular player, James. You talked about people that don't have a Wolves asset with this Everton Wolves game coming up. Hwang.
Yes.
So, FF Thinker, are we? Is it time to jump on the Hwang hovercraft? And quite a few other people have questions. So, for example, FPL Paisley, he sat at 1,200 overall, good rank, with 34 transfers left, and is debating Mbeumo or Hwang until December. We had a couple of other questions in as well that I'm going to kind of flick through, but Hwang now seems to be, here we go, Johnny Belfast, a wee sneaky Hwang, if you like. Would you get him in? And so on. So, yeah, and everybody else that asked a Hwang-related question, thank you.
Do you want to go outside for a Hwang, mate? I don't know, it sounds like that. It's code for something.
He's a midfielder in Sky versus a forward in FPL, but he's not a cheapie. He's 7.8 in Sky.
Got loads at that value.
Exactly.
The kind of Damari
This comes
Gray
back
value.
down to this, like... if you're going to captain him on just one day, we've talked about this. Do we think he's going to keep his place? I mean, Wolves have such depth in that area. With Jimenez is a lock, but then Trincao, Podence, Traore. Who's going to get the minutes? Hwang. Who's going to get the minutes? Like any game, if he was benched, would you be surprised, James?
No.
Well,
no. What we've got at the moment is we've got and I got to kind of see him firsthand in the Carabao Cup game when I went up to Wolves. Decent little player. Didn't particularly stand out as someone I thought was going to be a major threat. And also, let's take a step back for a moment and realise he's had a really good haul at the weekend. I think he got 18 or 19 points, I want to say. So it's against Newcastle. And let's just take a step back. We're in the middle of this really long kind of extended good fixture run for Wolves. But the next couple are not the easiest. Villa away, Leeds away. Then you've got the captaincy day at home to Everton on the Monday night. Now that's the entry point. If you want to go to him, I don't mind. So I think it's a judge for an extra 2 days. And I think my outlook on it at the moment, say I've got Gray covering me that Monday night. Well, if something happens to Gray, I've obviously sold Gray, haven't I? No, I do still have Gray. Sorry. Yeah. If something happens to Gray between now and then, Hwang, same price, not a problem. Let's go. That's fine. But I think it's that. Personally, I think it possibly solves you a solution once you get to that Monday night Wolves-Everton game. And their fixtures afterwards for Wolves are much better than Everton's. I've just spoken about Everton's fixture turn. Wolves afterwards, Palace, West Ham, Norwich, Burnley is better for a shorter period. And there will be an escape following that Burnley fixture or the Liverpool fixture on the 4th of December, which will definitely be a Saturday because of Liverpool's Champions League involvement on the Tuesday afterwards. So there are some escape points if it goes wrong. And I think just on Wolves-Everton, if you get there and you haven't got the coverage, I think it is by a Wolves player. but the options aren't great. Like, I think Sarr was doing me a decent job. It had just come up that the opportunity was right for me to go and get probably the best goalkeeper fantasy asset pound for pound in the game in Emi Martinez, and just fine. Do you know what? Let's get that back. Let's get it done. But in Hwang's case, he's got Traore, he's got Trincao, he's got Podence. Now, 2 of those 4 are going to play. Now, at the moment, Trincao obviously played the last game. Traore's apparently a bit pissed off at the moment, but they're trying to manage him. And Podence has recently come back from injury. So you've got 4 players fighting for 2 spots in their current system, because Raul Jimenez is always going to be one of them. And at the moment in Sky, Raul Jimenez is not really an option, because he's not the sort of player you ever feel is going to go off big.
No.
He's nice and consistent, but it blocks you captaincy choices if you go for someone like Raul Jimenez. Defensively,
and he's not cheap either. 9 million's a bit of a price. It's not crazy, but Jimenez 9 million.
And what's Antonio?
Yeah, 8 points high.
Right, well, there we go.
It's not even a debate.
No, not really for me. So I think Hwang, for those who are thinking about it, sit on it. Look, make a judgment. Next 2 games, Monday night, you can make the call if that's who you want. If you don't need the coverage for it, for me, I would not get overly excited about what you saw or what you think you saw on Match of the Day at the weekend, which were 2 lovely finishes. But let's calm down. It was Newcastle. I'd want to see a bit more first.
And we've got another question, which is a bit similar. In your dreams, Darren's got a question. Thoughts on Declan Rice? I've noticed he is ticking over nicely. Already have Conor Gallagher, although quite a few options in that bracket. Like, just I was like, is he ticking along nicely? Truth be told, all of West Ham's midfielders, he's the cheapest at 7.4, and then you've got 7.8 and 8. He's the 5th highest in points. Like, all of them, Fornal, Souček, Bowen, Benrahma, have all scored more points than him. Has he
hit any passing tackle tiers this season?
He's hit a couple of tackle
shot tier in one game. Actually,
tackle tier once, an assist, a passing tier 2, passing and tackle tier. So he's picked up 4 tier points over 7 games.
Points?
So only 28.
Well, the reality is that he's ticking over. But as Suj has just said, there's better options.
There's so
in the
many
same
better
team.
options. That's exactly it. They're all like Benrahma's on 44 points.
I feel like the
and
question.
He's 0.4 more.
He's the cheapest of those 5, right?
Yes.
So what you got? Fornals, Bowen, Souček, and Benrahma. Who Benrahma is one of the top midfield scorers at the moment.
Yeah.
Benrahma was the one player who I didn't buy on Sunday, who I really considered as looking at an alternative and going, right, if I was actually going someone at the same value, I'd have gone to Benrahma and just looked at it and gone, do you know what? Great long-term hold at 7.8 or so. I'm going to forego having the kind of double City defensive. Obviously decided not to go down that route. But, I mean, was it 0.4 more for Benrahma over Rice?
Make sense.
It sounds like a question that's laced with, I need to find someone at 7.5 or below.
But then at that point, when you're looking at that, then I think go and Buemo at 7.2 or Gallagher. There's other options that are better. So he's not one that tickles my fancy, to be honest with you, James.
No, me neither.
FF Cami, what to do with Traore and Alonso? Keep or sell?
Dear. This is why I'm really pleased that I avoided a little bit of a train that was going on for Wolves attacking players in both fantasy games. You got a problem with your hand, mate?
I sat on it for a little bit.
Sat on your hand.
I sat on my hand. So
for the benefit of those on the audio,
yeah.
Suj just turned at me and started
waggling my fingers because I've been sitting on my hand. One of them ones. Traore, Alonso.
Weirdo.
Alonso.
Let's do Traore first because we've kind of done Wolves already. I've just kind of discussed with you what the problem. We assume that Hwang, who obviously it is worth saying has gone to play for South Korea, but we would assume if he comes back in decent condition, he will play against Villa. They could make a call with Hwang, ironically, to say, you've had the long journey, you're new to the league, bench at Villa is even a possibility. And then the people asking about Hwang, their opinion on it will die instantly. Traore, I think I would be looking to sell.
7.9 million. Again, so many options.
There are escape routes, immediately. So if you don't have the Arsenal coverage and it needs to be a midfielder, you could consider obviously Emil Smith-Rowe. I want to say 7.5 or so, is he?
Smith-Rowe is cheap.
He is pretty cheap as well. So, I mean, that gets you 2 captaincies straight away if it needs to be a midfielder.
Bang on the money,
You could go Benrahma the next day. You can go Declan Rice the next day. You could go Damari Gray the next day. You could look at that as a chain move. Damari Gray versus West Ham at home. Watford at home and then move, or it covers you for the captaincy for the same fixture, Wolves versus Everton. So if you need the coverage for Everton v Wolves, ironically, roundabouts way, it's just a different setup in terms of moving your chess pieces differently. I would consider Traore to Gray on the first Sunday back, Sunday the 17th, when Everton host West Ham. Oh, and who was the other player?
Alonso.
Oh, that's brain damage. I think you hold probably till the Norwich game on the 23rd. And the one benefit of the Norwich game is you'll get to see the team. The problem is the sort of players that you probably want to consider moving to are nearly all playing on the Sunday. Because most of the big clubs are like United are playing Liverpool, Tottenham are playing West Ham. The sort of players that might be at similar value, because Alonso's only like 7.9, I want to say. But it might be there's another Chelsea alternative. It depends on what money you've got in the bank. Again, I'd recommend that podcast tomorrow. As Ted says, look, Chilwell, rotation FPL, Chilwell is the better player. There is no question about it. But it does not mean that Marcus Alonso won't play some of these easier fixtures. And Chelsea are in the middle of a good run of fixtures, which also includes them playing Malmo twice in the Champions League as well. They really do have an amazing run where we can expect to see some rotation, unfortunately. That now, ironically, might be good news for Marcus Alonso. I would hold to the Norwich game, I think, unless if you need the escape and you haven't got the captaincy coverage for the two Arsenal games, I'd sell. I mean, what's Alonso to Ben White, for example? I think Ben White's 7.8. I mean, straightforward.
Yep. Next question coming in from, two questions I'm going to clump together. One's Dylan Farrell. How will you recognise when you've reached the point that you need to start using transfers for points gains? I hope that makes sense. It makes perfect sense, Dylan. I think. It? Well, he's talking about making transfers for firefighting versus chain moves to make transfers. And Jarvo's got a question as well, which is how many weeks ahead should we ideally be planning for transfers? He's currently sitting at 250 overall rank with his main team in his first season. Don't forget, Java, just because you're asking questions, listen to the pod, 10% to Planet FPL if you win, yeah? Aside from picking the right players, how can I continue to build on this solid start? I think in terms of Java's question, first and foremost, obviously, TV fixtures. Like, you can only plan as far as you know the TV fixtures for captaincy coverage and that kind of thing. So that's your tier one of planning.
Yes and
no. And then tier 2 and 3, you can figure some stuff out, but you're then worried about injuries and changes and formation, all that kind of other stuff that goes with it. I feel like for me, it's always 4 weeks, because any longer than that, shit always happens. What you're good at, though, versus me, is A, B, C, D, E. You've got plans going all the way down, and you've probably got a plan per player. Like, what happens if this player's out? What do I do? If this player gets injured, what do I do? I don't have that.
Well, to be honest, until James Ward-Prowse got sent off on Saturday, buying a Merrick Laporte was never on the table. But obviously, I had a solution that I needed to look at, and there's a choice. You either keep the player or you move it on. I wasn't overly pleased with the other players at the similar value to Ward-Prowse. And looking at it, saying, what can I go up? And obviously I had to kind of judge it and go, right, I'm going to lose the Kane transfer. I have to figure out something else first if I want to get Harry Kane in the 3-4 game weeks, whenever it is, when they play kind of Everton Leeds on the 2 Sundays. And I decided that Laporte was worth it. So, yeah, in terms of that was not part of the plan, but I think something happens, you need to react on it and say, I need to analyse this situation. You say about not looking past, say, the TV fixtures. And you're right, you can't too much, but we can all look at Ronaldo's fixtures in December and go, right, Arsenal away, Arsenal at home looks like, because of the way Amazon have been stitched up, it's probably going to be the Thursday night. Great entry point. If not, the Palace game, if the Arsenal game's a Thursday, is going to be a Sunday. Great entry point again for Ronaldo. And it doesn't even have to be Ronaldo. It could be that by then we go, oh, it's Bruno Fernandes again all of a sudden, for example. But I think you can look beyond that and go, 100%, because of the Manchester United fixtures that they have in December, you are going to want a Manchester United attacking player, irrespective of how their fixtures land, because on so many occasions, Ronaldo/Fernandes is going to be the best choice. So you can have principle thinking in your back of your mind, like we discussed last week, and it ended up working out for me, was that Emi Martinez entry point was last Sunday. However, for example, if you've got the coverage of the Arsenal player or know you are going to the Arsenal player, there is another Emi Martinez entry point that doesn't have to be the night that they play Southampton on Friday the 5th, because you can buy Emi Martinez when Villa host West Ham on Sunday the 31st. So if you're thinking, I've missed the Emi Martinez, you haven't. You can still enter on Sunday the 31st. But I think I would want that if you were going with the two Arsenal players, because there's other teams before Martinez then plays West Ham are going to play twice. Actually, you're getting Martinez and he's going to be 3 for 1 for a lot of people. It doesn't make sense particularly to get him on the Friday night that they play each other.
Yep.
Friday night entries are not great generally. Monday night entries are. So in terms of Dylan's question, in terms of when to firefight, I think you need to be reactionary in this game. I had no intention of making any transfers this weekend. I've used 3. I don't feel, oh my God, I've used 3 transfers I shouldn't have used. I look at it and go, actually, ironically, the Ward-Prowse suspension has opened up a different door for me and looked at different solutions. And I do think Ward-Prowse will tick over absolutely great all season, and I wouldn't rule going out to him. But actually then reflecting on it and going, right, Southampton Villa, if I had to close my eyes and captain one player that night, who do I want it to be? It's Emi Martinez. There is another Villa player of interest, just what I remember. So Ollie Watkins, but it's a forward problem issue. I think Watkins is going to do well in the next few weeks or so.
Well, yeah, you're talking about JWP. I am going to give you all the JWP questions in one go, and they're all in the context of single game day against Villa. What do we do? JWP solutions from FPL. Oakwell, wanted for the single game day against Villa, but he's missing now. Hold him or a different Southampton player. But FPL Binary doesn't own any Villa or Southampton players currently and doesn't like either of their fixtures after the single game day. Should he use a transfer to get a captain or go without? Overall rank for FPL Binary 516, which is decent. Well, it's more than decent, isn't it, really? And then a few other people here. What to do with JWP? He looks like he's going to miss the single game day. 2 Premier League games is what he's going to miss. Keep or hold, and so on and so on and so on. I obviously didn't move on from him on the Sunday. It's all right, whatever, but I need to start making a plan. So he's going to miss the single game day against Villa now with suspension?
No. So Ward-Prowse will miss 2 league games, Leeds at home and Burnley at home, and that's part of the frustration.
Good games. Yeah.
They are. I mean, to be honest, Leeds...
But Leeds, he won't get any passing tiers because of the pace of the game, potentially.
No, he wouldn't. That's very true, but then you're always liable to get attacking returns.
And
Leeds set pieces are not great. Admittedly, Burnley, the game afterwards, that is a strength of theirs. And actually, Leeds, now that Llorente is back, although God knows how long that will last, they'll probably be a little bit better themselves on set pieces coming up, Leeds. But they still conceded. They had a goal. Watford had a goal disallowed at the weekend, which should have stood from a Meslier dropped cross from a corner. So that's part of the frustration as well. You go, well, I knew when I was getting him, they would have this really good run from sort of match week 8 onwards, and he's going to miss 2 of it. It's worth saying he'll be back for Watford on Saturday the 30th in match week 10. Then you've got the Villa game on the Friday night. So the entry point to come back to him, if that's what you was thinking, is not great. Like if you're sitting there going, I really want to captain James Ward-Prowse against Aston Villa on that Friday night, I think you should keep. They've got Norwich afterwards as well. Then the fixtures turn a little bit more difficult. And you can escape, obviously, Ward-Prowse following the Villa fixture or the Norwich fixture or the Liverpool away fixture, which is afterwards. There's loads of escapes because Southampton regularly play on Saturdays. But I think the solution, honestly, is a little bit similar to what I came up with the solution. When you have a problem like that, say Ward-Prowse, I think the immediate is, right, so where can I go with the money? Now, most people be sitting there with 3 in midfield. In my case, I was sitting there with 4. So I was so blessed that I could look everywhere. But you can look beyond even defence, midfield, forward, because basically the player I've replaced Ward-Prowse with is Martinez. So
it's pot, isn't it? Martinez is getting a lot.
Perhaps it's a case that you look at going, right, I need to move Ward-Prowse on now, immediately, if that's what you want to do. And as I said, you've got that Emi Martinez entry point for the Villa-West Ham game on Sunday the 31st before the Friday night game, and you should definitely buy on the Sunday the 31st. There are 2 goalkeepers where obviously it doesn't really work, maybe 3 if you've got Meslier. Where this solution doesn't work is for those who've got Sarr or Pickford. because obviously Wolves-Everton is the Monday in between those two Villa fixtures. So if you've got Sarr or Pickford, that doesn't work because you presumably want them for that. Any other goalkeeper, I think this is a solution. So you look at then at say you've got Ward-Prowse, what is he, 8.5, I want to say, Suj, and planning your transfer. What's the difference between my goalkeepers if I'm going to Emi Martinez? Okay, this is what I've now got for the Ward-Prowse replacement. Look again, and then that opens up every team for you. So this is a rare. Obviously, you're replacing a suspended player. You can enter on the Saturday that we return on the 16th. So just a little bit of thinking outside the box in terms of, I think what people do, oh my God, what I'm going to do for Southampton Villa. It's there in front of our face, Emi Martinez. And ironically, if Villa weren't playing West Ham that day, on that Sunday, I'd have said maybe for a short period Antonio to Watkins, but that doesn't work because they'll be playing each other, presumably. But if Antonio gets injured, which he's always liable to do at some stage, Ollie Watkins not too far away. He's 9.2. Watkins has hit shot. He didn't hit shot tier at Tottenham at the weekend, but he scored. He looks more lively than Ings at the moment, in my opinion. He got shot tier at Manchester United. He got shot tier at Chelsea. So even in some of the bigger games, and I feel like he's a sort of player playing away from home suits him a little bit more space to run into channels and that on the counter attack.
Right, SkyFF Hornet has got a question, James. And for anybody listening to the podcast, you might want to head over to youtube.com/Planet FPL, hit subscribe and watch the YouTube video, because the question is, and my clothing today is in honour of the question, and I'm not going to give any more insight other than go to YouTube. Did you do that on purpose? Oh, yes, I read these questions last night. Is it wrong to be buying mince pies on October the 5th?
It's October the 6th.
No, but the question was asked yesterday. Is it wrong?
I don't care. It's October the 6th. It's a mince pie. You can have a mince pie whenever you want.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you, James. Eat them anytime, all year round. It's perfectly fine.
It's not what I'd go and buy, to be honest.
It's perfectly fine.
If you like a mince pie, buy it whenever you want.
We had a meeting at work before we were recording this pod. Someone said they'd done their online Sainsbury's shop the other day, and they've got advent calendars. You can buy them. But they got the delivery. They got the delivery, but the advent calendar wasn't on it. So you can go online and buy them, but they didn't turn up in the delivery.
To be honest, don't feel guilty about buying an Easter egg because it's still on the shelf. Because it's a week after whenever week Jesus has decided Easter's going to be this year. Like, you can do that. It's okay.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Mince pies in October is perfectly
I'm trying to think of other foods that you go, oh, that's a kind of monthly.
Yeah, the Terry's chocolate orange. I suppose that's Easter as well. Cream eggs, people don't eat around Easter generally. They're disgusting, though. So sickly. Pigs in blankets.
Pigs in blankets. You can if you want to. Depending on where you live, you can do a barbecue at Christmas if you can if you want to.
Question for you then, James. What's the difference between a Sunday roast and Christmas dinner? Pigs in blankets, generally. They eat pigs in blankets all year round.
So true. And the Brussels.
Yeah, fuck them.
Brussels are right, mate.
They are if they've got gravy on them. So, Hornet, you better get down the
Brussels are right. I normally, you need kind of space and air after Christmas dinner. I mean, well, Brussels gives you that as well. No one wants to come near you, do they?
Blades attack. He can only have Schmeichel or Tim Krul in goal. At the moment, currently on Schmeichel, but with Norwich finally keeping a clean sheet and having moved past that hellish opening, is it worth the switch? I don't know. It doesn't give you any coverage for captaincy. I don't get it.
Sorry, I don't really understand. Why
has Schmeichel considering Krul?
No, I got that. Why are Schmeichel and Krul the only two goalkeepers you consider? I don't know. Read it again.
It says can only have Schmeichel or Krul in goal at the moment.
Is that an FPL question? I don't.
Brian, slide in the message and let us know why you can only have one.
I've got to know. I've got to know why those are the only two players that you can have. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. Sorry.
Auto reclose Darren. Who do you think scores more points in the Chelsea run-in? Rudiger or Chelsea nice run? Sorry, not run-in. Nice run. Rudiger or Lukaku?
I think Lukaku. But yeah, it might be.
Might be close.
It might be. I mean, Rudiger, with the games coming up, if he plays them, which there's no reason to believe that he won't, by the way, and we cover that tomorrow on the podcast. You're looking at him picking up a minimum of 20 points with no clean sheets, aren't you? I think Lukaku will go off somewhere. There'll be one of them days where he'll go off. I think it will be most likely the Norwich or the Newcastle fixtures. He'll go off.
Yeah. FPL Sky Addict. Chris has jumped in with a question. Is the lack of bonus an issue for Arsenal's 2 games? Is it worth a transfer as likely to use to get in and out? I mean, I look at Ben White. Lack of bonus for who?
Well, Ben White, I mean, there's no passing tier at the weekend.
6, 7, 2, 7. If a 7.8 defender is giving me 5-point average per game, I'll take it.
But then on reflection, if you look at that, of course, yeah, but they've kept 3 clean sheets in the last 4. If the clean sheets stop, you ain't getting nothing out of it. That's the point.
No.
And if you
But
compare
look at
that,
the opposition. Brighton were so intense.
but if you compare that with, say, Lewis Dunk at 0.4 more or Webster at 0.8 less when he comes back, these guys are starting on 4 or 5 points most weeks, right?
Yes. Webster's the only one that I would say is cheaper. So obviously I'd rather have Webster. The only reason I don't have Webster is because of
He's
the
injured. Well, none
injury.
of us would have got rid of him.
And then there's Ben White's there is for the captaincy coverage for those 2 days. So, kind of doubling up on that. For now, I mean, I look at the Brighton game, the intensity was so high, it's never going to get passing tiers. Tottenham, again, is going to be should have been a difficult game, no passing tiers there.
You say that, but I'm not sure if they did or they didn't. But the Palace boys were pretty close,
Okay.
I think, when they played Brighton. And actually, the Palace boys, Gay and Anderson, both hit passing tier against Leicester at the weekend. They didn't hit it against Brighton. The only players who've hit passing tier against Brighton this year are Truce de Kong and Yannick Vestergaard a couple of weeks ago when Leicester were chasing the game against Brighton. The only players to pick up passing tier against Brighton. That's really off topic. We'll talk about Arsenal a lot more next week statistically because I think it's going to be very on vogue before their 2 single game day fixtures. But it's a very fair point. And it's what I looked at in terms of Sunday, in terms of finding a replacement. Because one Ward-Prowse option, of course, was to say, do you know what? I'm going to keep this, go to Arsenal for the Monday, Friday fixtures, keep for the Leicester fixture, and then go back somewhere else. Or chain move it to something else after the Villa fixture. That was part of my thinking. But obviously, I couldn't go with Aubameyang.
Yeah.
Yep, that guy's made it in the podcast again. Saka obviously got an injury against Brighton at the end of the game. We don't know the status. That's a little bit dodgy because I think actually he'd be the best one at the moment. His shot volume is increasing, and it smells to me like someone who's going to get more and more attacking returns. Smith Rowe will tick over. It's fine at the value. So I was looking at that and going, Ward-Prowse to Smith Rowe / Ben White. Just sit on it, James. Don't do anything. Wait for the Arsenal team against Palace and then make a decision then. But then that would give me the Southampton Villa problem, possibly, depending on where I went. Obviously, I went to Martinez. But I think, yeah, that's another solution for Ward-Prowse owners. Sit there till the Monday, see the Arsenal team, make your decision. But there's not at the moment. And I think it's because of game status for Arsenal. Like, I feel as soon as they go in front in games, generally, the Tottenham game was different because Tottenham played some ridiculous wide open system. But generally when they go in front, they're quite happy to sit off. So I think even if you saw like Palace or Villa at home, if they got 1 or 2-0 in front, they're quite happy to give up possession.
Yeah.
Palace have definitely shown that they're a more possession-based team this year. Villa haven't particularly. I don't know if that helps or not. I think the best choice, honestly, for the 2 Arsenal games would be Aubameyang. Really do. But, yeah. It's if you're happy to make the chain move. That's the only reason.
Gary, there's your cue. Meme incoming. Sam,
can I just say about Gary?
Yeah.
Prick Gary Robinson.
He bought Aubameyang, second team.
The 7 for 2, he bought him, didn't he?
Yeah,
yeah,
team.
All right.
Go on, Gary. Right, and the last question of the show, James, goes to Sam Guy, who is talking about South America, mate. Why have I got Aussie accent? With Alisson looking likely to miss the Watford game, is it a sensible move as an owner to move to Emi Martinez if he's back to cover off the single match day?
Could be. It's another way.
Isn't it a double South American problem, Brazil to Argentina?
It looks like, yeah, and that's fair as well. And you're not going to get the Villa team. It looks like the main problem here is going to be for the Brazilian players. It looks like nearly all the Brazilian players are probably going to miss match week 8, which probably does mean Rafinha as well, unfortunately. But that's not one I would fret about. He just stays there as far as I'm concerned. Dean Smith gave the impression that Martinez will be back for Villa. That was the impression I had from his comments. He's definitely someone who's been double jabbed. I think goalkeeper as well.
It's easier to play, isn't it?
If they're back, then
they play.
And there's a couple of these are small factors, but I think they're relevant in comparing the Martinez and Alisson cases. Villa play at home,
right,
and they play later in the day. Liverpool play away at Watford, 12:30 kickoff. So it might just be a case of looked at and gone, they'll want to travel the night before and stuff, right? Whereas Emi Martinez can rock up at Villa Park on a Saturday morning and the boss goes, "You feel all right?" "Yeah, I'm the goalkeeper, mate. My job's to keep the ball out of the net." "Okay, I play." So it might be that's the difference between the two players. Klopp's gone, well, he can't travel with the team on a Friday night. I'm going to leave him at home. Principle. Whereas because Villa at home, it might be that it works out for Martinez. You need the information, though, I think, before you make that move. Obviously, it will cover you further ahead, but you could look at that as an example and say, okay, fine. So you go Alisson to Martinez, but then looking further ahead, you've obviously got the Martinez on the Friday. Then you've got Alisson's got two more games before Martinez plays West Ham, which is arguably the next entry point. So I'd be very cautious, very, very cautious before making that move.
Yeah, luckily the Liverpool game's the early kickoff, so you'll see whether Alisson's back or not before you have to make any decisions.
There is that, but I think for Klopp to say, look, he won't be involved, I think that's what it is. We've got an away game. Remember, it's the other side of the country, Liverpool to Watford, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's possibly what will be influencing that as well.
There we go. Listeners, thank you for sending in your SkyFF questions. Of course, this is the international break, so don't be making any moves until next week. And next week's episode will be more focused on the upcoming game week and what we're planning a little bit further forward as well. And of course, again, on Twitter, we'll be asking for more questions. So follow James at Planet FPL Pod for when that goes live.
We'll have a deeper look at some statistical stuff next week.
Indeed. Of course, make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening to the podcast, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify. Maybe even leave us a review.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Tomorrow, as James has mentioned, clash of the correspondents, Brentford and Chelsea, Tom and Ted doing their thing. And on Friday, there'll be a live stream on YouTube. Ask James. And as there's no football other than international football, maybe ask him other random questions.
Please, if you come to my stream on Friday, please ask me random shit.
Yes. And also ask him how he's been doing down the gym this week. Stay safe. Chat for now.
Same as always. Thanks, everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man, child.